G'day guys and gal, the Horus Heresy is the biggest plotline of all fictional settings ever. Dozens of books, thousands of characters, hundreds of subplots, all given a near equal amount of love and care. It's honestly incredible and I don't think we'll see the likes of it anytime again soon. Now one downside is that finishing the Heresy in its entirety, which I did, literally takes years, so not many people actually know a whole lot about it. Sure, you may know the broad strokes from watching my videos or reading some wikis, but I'd say that gives you about a 15% snapshot at most, and the scenes you do know, you don't actually fully appreciate the context of. So to help with that, and because Sanguinius and the Blood Angels are dope as hell, I thought let's check out what the Sons of Baal got up to during the Horus Heresy. Before we get started, it's Friday baby, which means epic major mini release, and boy is this epic, as I announce the Great Angel, a limited model only available for 1 week. This model was made in collaboration with a 3D art guy, who gets a royalty off every sale, so if you get one, not only do you get a sick model, but you also support an amazing modeler and the channel. Wins all round. The model features a familiar pose, multiple weapon variants, a helmet and helmetless variant, and armor so ornate it'll make you wet. He is also perfectly scaled to how he should be on tabletop. We're also releasing an art scale, where all the details are bigger. If I was you, if you wanted to play him tabletop or add him to your army, get the tabletop scale. But if not, then the art scale is where the details really pop, and you can go to absolute town with painting. As a treat, we decided to do this launch entirely in our 12K Ultra resin, which is the best resin you can get. It's twice the price of normal resin and gives insane details and durability. Again, this is a 1 week launch, no more, no less. Then he's gone. Link is below. Today we'll go over what the Blood Angels did during the Heresy, how much they contributed, their key moments, and their biggest L's. Let's get into it. As a bit of pre-heresy lore, Sanguinius was the pure, naive and trusting brother that the rest of the others looked up to because he was never scheming and anything he said to your face he meant. However, he also was deeply insecure about his legion's gene flaws, namely the red thirst, in which some of his sons would go insane, thirst for blood, and would be so lost that they would even try to attack their own Primarch. It was the one secret he kept from the Emperor and his brothers. It would be the secret Horus would try to exploit to bring him down. See, when Horus was planning his heresy, he wanted to position all the pieces on the board to his own design. He knew roughly which legions would fall and which would stay loyal. He also knew which loyal legions would be a headache and which ones would be easy to take down. Horus sent the line to the other side of the galaxy as he knew the Dark Angels would be a nightmare to battle, so his goal was to slow the line rather than destroy him. Likewise, he sent the White Scars to Chondax because he believed he could turn them but needed more time. The Ultramarines were to rally at a muster point to be ambushed, the idea being to weaken them, not destroy them, with the Space Wolves getting baited into attacking Prospero in an attempt to destroy both the Thousand Suns and the Space Wolves, leaving the Iron Hands, Salamanders and Raven Guard to be destroyed at Isfahan. For the Blood Angels, Chaos couldn't actually agree on how to deal with them. The forces of Chaos wanted Sanguinius to fall really badly. It's implied that they actually preferred Sanguinius over Horus, something that made Horus insecure. Horus, on the other hand, wanted Sanguinius killed, A, because he thought he'd be a big threat, and B, because he wanted to take out any potential rivals. Thus, Horus sent Sanguinius to Signus Prime, telling the angel that not only was Signus Prime infested with Nephilim, a Xeno force the Blood Angels despise, but it also contained the key to curing Sanguinius' legion of the Red Thirst. Thus, Horus preyed on Sanguinius' naivety, trust in his brothers, and insecurity to send him there without debate. Now, while Horus sent Sanguinius there to die, Erebus conspired with Khorne and Slaanesh to try turn Sanguinius instead. Cygnus started off disastrously for the Blood Angels. Their command crew of the Red Tier, their Gloriana-class capital ship, went blood mad from Khorne and killed each other, causing the ship to crash into the planet. It was then beset upon by demonic hordes from both Khorne and Slaanesh. To make matters worse, Kabunda and Sanguinius battled, with Kabunda breaking Sanguinius' legs and then killing 500 Blood Angels in a single blow, the psychic backlash of which put Sanguinius into a coma. While that was happening, the forces of Chaos were conducting a ritual that began slowly activating the Black Rage within the Blood Angel Legion, making them more vicious. Now, this was a part of the plan to corrupt them to Chaos. It was not a part of the plan to destroy them. If they wanted to destroy them, they should have just attacked them normally and not tried to activate the Rage. That is because a Blood Angel who is under the effects of the Black Rage is multiple times more powerful than a normal Space Marine and also ignores pain and shock. Thus, while the Angels became more and more affected, their fighting abilities skyrocketed to a point where the demon forces were getting fucked on. It wasn't all sunshine and rainbows though. The Space Wolves accompanying the Blood Angel Legion were butchered by Nasir Amit and his warriors. The Blood Angel librarians were desperate to wake up Sanguinius, and through great effort and sacrifice they managed it. Sanguinius awoke and was shocked. He knew he had to save his sons, so he flew to the Chaos Fortress and killed Kabunda. He then turned on Kairos, the Slaaneshi Greater Demon. However, Kairos told Sanguinius that if he allowed himself to jump into the Chaos Ritual Center, which was this cauldron, then he could absorb the curse of his legion into himself and save his sons. Sanguinius looked out at his legion, who had butchered every single demon on the planet and were now looking up at him, although they began twitching as their blood rage gets worse and they begin thinking about slaughtering each other. Sanguinius, being a bit of a retard, accepts. However, his son Meros jumps into the cauldron instead, binding with the demon and banishing the black rage from the legion. Kairos is then slaughtered by Sanguinius. Now, there is a debate whether or not Sanguinius jumping into the cauldron would have actually saved the Blood Angels from the black rage. I am of the opinion that Sanguinius would have become part demon, or at least corrupted. His legion would then be free from the black rage and red thirst, but then half of them would join their Primarch in damnation out of loyalty, while the other half would fight and die as loyalists, meaning Chaos would end up with a Blood Angel Chaos Legion. So overall, it was a bad idea. After all, why would Chaos try so hard if it wasn't going to directly benefit them? The Blood Angels somewhat managed to repair the red tier and attempt to get back to Terra, only to discover the Ruinstorm and instead get redirected to Ultramar due to Guilliman using the Faros device, a Xeno device that acted like a mini Astronomicon. Sanguinius, Guilliman, and the Lion are stuck in Ultramar due to the Ruinstorm, a massive warp storm, cutting the galaxy in half and making it impossible to reach Terra. Guilliman makes the assumption that Terra is lost and that they are the last loyalists left. Thus he declares Ultramar the second coming of the Imperium and makes Sanguinius its emperor. The law surrounding Imperium Secundus is kind of funky. Basically, those three loyalist legions, who were desperately needed at Terra, were just kind of twiddling their thumbs. Yeah, sure, there was some interesting politics, and yes, Conrad Curse appeared and made a massive mess of things until the Lion kicked his ass. Not to mention the Sanguinor was created during this period, but it wasn't exactly a high action time. As a side plot point, when Sanguinius went to Signus Prime, the Imperium lost contact with him and assumed he along with his legion were dead. As such, Malcador, that cold bastard, sent an emissary to Bull to basically tell the remaining Blood Angels there that the 9th Legion was to be disbanded. All of their weapons, armor, servants, Geneseed, and Marines were to hand themselves over to the Imperium and more or less become an unmarked legion or be absorbed by the other loyalist legions. The captain who commanded Bull in Sanguinius' absence was prepared to kill the emissary and declare independence, when an astropathic message from Sanguinius arrived just in time and prevented disaster. Talk about good timing, goddamn. Due to some prophecy bullshit, the Lion realized that the Emperor was still alive and convinced his brothers that they had to go to Terra. Sanguinius also agreed, as he kept foreseeing his own death at the hands of Horus and felt like their showdown was set in stone. Thus Imperium Secundus was abandoned and the three legions attempted to cross the Ruinstorm. The Lion used a special device he had commandeered called T'Chulcha, which granted obscenely powerful warp traveling abilities. This basically allowed the three legions to warp jump through the Ruinstorm bit by bit. However, Chaos wanted to slow them down as much as possible. Usually T'Chulcha could take your ship from one side of the galaxy to the other drama-free in no time at all. However, the Ruinstorm was so thick that it would deposit them at some kind of hectic chaos barrier and force them to either outwit or fight their way through it. Because the Ruinstorm was basically the warp, Chaos was able to build structures the size of solar systems. I'm talking shit that would take the full mass of over 1 million worlds to build. They used every bullshit hack they had at their disposal. Like, it was pretty fucked, to be honest. Those who have read the book will know what I'm talking about. The entire time they were traveling through the Ruinstorm, they were being stalked by this Chaos megaship that was piloted by a legion of demons as well as Mardale, aka Chaos Jesus, or Muhammad, depending which short brown messiah you follow. The ultimate confrontation brought them to Davin, where it all began, where Horus fell to Chaos. While the Primarchs went to Davin to try figure out how to destroy it, the demon ship attacked their fleet and began destroying their ships, with the twist being that for every ship it destroyed, that ship would come back to life as a demonic zombie ship. Yeah, bullshit hacks. Despite 3 full Legion fleets, the Loyalists were getting bodied. Sanguinius entered a portal on Davin that took him to the demon ship and he began fighting Mardale, who was obscenely powerful. During the fight, Sanguinius kept reliving his death to Horus over and over, until eventually he saw a future in which he won. This invigorated Sanguinius, ascending him to become Super Saiyan Kaioken times 10. He kicked Mardale's ass and the portal to Davin was closed as the demon ship imploded. Davin was the anchor point for the Ruinstorm, thus it began dissipating as Davin collapsed. A huge dub for the Loyalists. The last action of this campaign was the Sanguinor jumping into the warp to impale Mardale to hold him to the ground as the portal shut. This act of bravery triggered something in the warp, which ascended the Sanguinor to become the angel we all know and love today. The path to Terra was now kinda open, but not really. The Ruinstorm was gone, but a shitload of Iron Warriors and traitor defenses were in the way. The three brothers realized that not all of them could get through. Guilliman would distract the defenses around Terra, gathering a shitload of loyalists to him. The Lion would go blow up all the traitor homeworlds to fuck up the traitor supply lines, weaken the warp's influence, and distract the traitor forces. These two actions allowed Sanguinius and his legion to reach Terra. Sanguinius wouldn't waste any time, leading his forces alongside a gigantic Imperial army to Beta Garmin. This was the last system before Terra, and Rogel basically wanted both sides to kill 95% of their Titans here, as Terra would be obliterated by a full-on Titan war. and kill each other they did. Sanguinius played more of a sub-role here. This was a Titan war, however he did take out a few Titans himself, including an Imperator, and his presence was a massive morale boost. Despite inflicting massive losses on the traitors, the loyalists were overwhelmed and withdrew. The path to Terra was open. Now I'm not going to do a beat for beat Siege of Terra deep dive, that shit was like 8 books by itself, but I can let you know the Blood Angels' role in it. They were the middle ground between the unbreakable line of the Imperial Fist and the free spirit of the White Scars. The Imperial Fist would hold the line, while the White Scars would sally forth. The Blood Angels would bridge the gap, helping hold when needed and pushing out when needed. They were very well rounded. Sanguinius carried the siege so fucking hard. Whenever a section of war was being overrun, he would dive bomb into it, massacre the traitors, and then drive them back and then fly off to the next spot. No one worked as hard as Sanguinius did during the siege. He kept the morale high while racking up an obscene kill count. As the siege got near its end, all the loyalist legions blended together into one mass of warriors fighting for their lives, with Sanguinius himself slaying Kabunda again in round 2, then immediately fighting and slaying Angron, back to back. Fucking insane. The Mad Lad then convinced the Emperor to let him come with him to board Horus's ship to end the heresy. Despite non-stop fighting for months, a gigantic wound in his stomach from Angron's blade which refused to heal, which was also stated to be actively killing him, and the trauma of everything he had faced, Sanguinius was a force of nature. He rips through the Sons of Horus elite, butchering them as his warriors do their best to keep up. They fight through, and Sanguinius is eventually able to reach Horus. Now we do know how this goes. The fight starts well for Sanguinius. Horus depowers himself to his normal Primarch power and tries to convince Sanguinius to join him. Sanguinius uses his superior speed and skill to outmatch Horus and wear him down. You also gotta remember Sanguinius didn't have the Spear of Telesto, his most powerful weapon here. So the fact a wounded, exhausted Sanguinius without his primary weapon was beating Horus, the War Master of Chaos, just goes to show how far above his brother Sanguinius was. However, as Sanguinius strikes Horus down and goes for the killing blow, Horus activates his Chaos power, and then the fight is basically just over. He almost immediately beats Sanguinius down, swatting him out of the sky from the 8th dimension, or however the fuck the author describes the Chaos bullshit hacks. He then mercilessly begins beating Sanguinius to a pulp before picking him up and crushing him in his hand, ending his life. To Sanguinius' credit, he does not beg, he does not even have final words. When Horus went God mode, Sanguinius' speed was still so fast that he was able to avoid a few strikes from Horus, which genuinely surprised Horus, but more in the kind of way of when you arm wrestle a skinny guy and you actually feel a little bit of resistance, more than expected, before you slam their arm to the table. With Sanguinius gone, the Black Rage was unleashed in the Blood Angels, who began indiscriminately killing anything that wasn't a fellow Blood Angel. Fortunately for the Loyalists, the majority of living things on both the Vengeful Spirit and Terra were traitors, thus traitors felt the brunt of the Blood Angel onslaught. These angels were borderline unstoppable. One angel had the strength of multiple Astartes and killed dozens. Ironically, this actually allowed the Loyalists to hold for significantly longer and also saved Valdor and Rogel, who were surrounded by Abaddon and his men until the Blood Angels arrived, and began ripping Abaddon's forces to shreds. The only angel who was able to resist the Black Rage was Zephon, the bringer of sorrow, because he had undergone so much pain already that his mental fortitude was unbreakable, so he could resist. The rage eventually faded, and the angels were left feeling hollow and ashamed. It's actually a plot point of the first Scouring book that the Blood Angels are now a shadow of their former selves. They're too scared to unleash themselves in battle, thus were slow, suffered high casualties, and performed poorly in the post-Heresy battles. Sanguinius and the Blood Angels had some of the best Heresy lore there was, and now you know why. If you enjoyed the video and you want to support the channel, then pick up the Great Angel, 1 week only. Join the Discord for more memes, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.